Hello, everyone. My name is Sarafi, and tonight I will be joined with one of my colleagues, the Galaxy Eyes Guru, also known as the Cosmic Guru or Goldmine.
Hello,
Gold,
everybody.
welcome, Gold. Gold and I participated in a Rush Duel tournament held by the Guild of Gurus, where Gold took third place. And Gold, you brought your favorite deck that you were excited to play, which you talked about in our last video, which was the Kime Ruler, the Dark Raider deck. Is that right?
That is correct. I have brought that deck.
All right, fantastic. And can you tell the audience what you thought about Gavin Sogetsu, about his unlock conditions, about the time that it took you to unlock him, about how easy or hard it was to level him, about his drop rewards and the skills.
All right. For his unlock rewards and his unlock missions and how long it took to level him up, I would say it didn't take too long. It's like the rest of sevens, like they're only level 20, so it's a lot easier to level them up. Like I'm almost nearly maxed with Yuga, and I've maxed out Gavin myself, so those did not take me too long. Like I literally woke up, maxed out Gavin, then I'm about to nearly maxed out Yuga, and I'm level 14 with Luke. So it definitely took me like no time at all to get the rewards. As for their drops, I will say I am a bit disappointed. Like, well, I'm thankful that they do put level rewards in the gate. At the same time, I was kind of hoping they would put something different for them.
Well, hold on. Let's discuss that. So, context before we discuss whether it's good or bad. So, these characters have a level cap of 20 as opposed to the level cap of 30 that we've seen previously. This means that the three cards that they receive they only have space to get 2 copies of each card as opposed to 3 copies, which they would have room for if they were up to level 30. And the way that we can get additional copies of these cards, because every card can be run at 3, is you can duel the character at the gate. And for example, Gavin's earliest card reward is Blue Falcon Tengu, which is a card he gets 2 copies of by getting level 20, and then he can get an additional copy by getting defeated. He also drops Urashima the Hermit and the ultra rare spell Bonded Bowing. This is true of the other characters as well, except for Roman Cassidy, because Roman Cassidy's level 10 reward Romanpic is not a drop reward. Therefore, the single copy that she gets at level 10 is the only copy that is currently available in the game. Otherwise, it takes a little bit of extra work to duel these characters at the gate in order to get 3 copies of every card that they could drop. But and that does mean that they have fewer cards that are offered than a character that you could level to 30 and then additionally duel through.
That is fair.
Now, with that context presented, do you think that's a good thing or a bad thing?
It's kind of mixed for me. Well, I do understand that while they're level 20, they have to make compromises. At the same time, I feel like this could have been resolved by making them level 30 and then having different rewards for the gate.
Well, what cards would you have liked to see Gavin have in addition to the cards that he has now?
Personally, I would like to also see Blazing Chestnut and Wandering Warrior.
Okay, Blazing Chestnut is an important card for the Kimme Ruler, the Dark Raider combination, which we discussed in the last video briefly for the audience. That card allows Gavin to take the top card of his deck and send it to the graveyard. And if that card is a monster card, one of his warrior monsters gains attack points equal to the discarded monster's level times 300 until the end of the turn. But then Gavin suffers the same amount of attack points as damage. This is extremely useful to pair with Kime Ruler, the Dark Raider, who has the ability to attack directly. And then Wandering Warrior is a level 6 monster that when it's The turn that it's summoned, you could send it to the graveyard, and you could special summon 2 warrior monsters from your graveyard face down in defense position, which can be high-level warriors like Yami Ruler, the Dark Lair.
I feel like giving him these two cards would have helped him a lot more competitively. Like it would have allowed him to compete more.
So that definitely could have been the case, as you describe. But with the focus specifically on Yami Ruler, the Dark Delayer, as opposed to Kime Ruler, the Dark Raider, I feel like Bonded Bowing is the most important card for him to have received.
That is fair.
While Yami Ruler, the Dark Delayer is an extremely powerful card, and one that Konami simply is not interested in pushing, it is still his ace monster. And although they've given Kimi Ruler a skill and some cards necessary to support it, like um, Umegumi, um, who I will pull up here. Umegumi, the Ruler Squad, which is a level 6 Earth Warrior that allows you to force an opponent's monster to lose 500 attack and defense points till the end of the turn if there is a face-up defense position monster on either side of the field. Um, that is that is a card that supports both Yami Ruler and Kimi Ruler, because Kimi Ruler likes the opponent having defense position monsters, and Yami Ruler likes being in defense position. So that card, as opposed to uh, Blazing Chestnut, seems like a better starter card for Gavin, I would say. Um,
True.
I am hopeful that we will get Semi Ruler the Dark Raider sooner rather than later, because Gavin is supposed to have 3 rulers. But it makes sense that they didn't want to give us so many level 7s for his deck so early on.
I understand that. But like I think they want to kind of generate hype by slowing down the pace, like only giving us two right now and then giving us the rest later.
Mm-hmm.
But I feel like at the same time, it kind of made him weak compared to the others.
Yeah, I am sharing my screen now so that you'll be able to see what I'm discussing. Sorry about that.
Uh, oh,
Okay,
it's all good.
now let's talk about Dark Arts of Clarity. So this is Gavin's level 18 skill, and it seems like the intention by Konami is that the level 18 skills for these characters are their primary skills, at least for right now. There are some other interesting options for each character, such as Yuga's Robe Magic Explosion skill, Gavin's skill focused on Urashima the Hermit, Luke's skill that focuses around Dragon Knight of Darkness, and the Psychic Drive skill for Roman. But those skills seem more situational and less overall consistent and powerful compared to the level 18 skills. Would you
That
agree
is
that
true.
Dark Arts of Clarity is probably Gavin's best skill?
Oh, I have no doubts about that. That is his best skill. Like
Oh,
the restrictions are not too hard on the deck. It it gives a pretty good effect. Like it's very helpful for what it does, especially for setting up Hime Ruler.
okay. So during the turn that you summon a level 6 or higher Dark or Earth attribute warrior monster, you can change one attack position monster on your opponent's field to face up defense position. This allows Kime Ruler the Dark Raider to activate its effect to attack your opponent directly, which is not a hard once per turn like any other Rush card. So if you are able to summon multiple Kime Ruler the Dark Raiders in the same turn and activate this skill while your opponent only has one attack position monster, you would be able to attack your opponent directly for 5,000. Um, and additionally, even if you can't attack with Kime Ruler, you are able to trigger Yumegumi's effect because the opponent has a face-up defense position monster, or you could simply more easily destroy a monster that might be too difficult to destroy in attack position, such as 7-0 Magician, Prima the Shining Superstar, Spice the Elite Noodle Ninja, or Dragius, Multi-Strike Dragius.
which is very helpful in this meta, especially with how prominent Dragius is.
We will get to the meta in a bit. But yes, that does seem to be the case. So this skill seems to be very effective for the cards that we have been given. It does not specifically support Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, but it does not hinder Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, and that card honestly seems like it can stand alone on its own without much help.
That is true.
And with the addition of Bonded Bowing and Nandez the Awakener, I do think Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer is going to be a very powerful deck, and I look forward to seeing your performance in on ladder and in future tournaments once you have finally acquired a third copy of Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, because I think
Hopefully, I will.
that will be the key that makes your deck more consistent.
That is fair. That is fair. I
Okay.
do think that having free copies would definitely help my deck more.
hmm
And there's another card that I think is really helpful for the deck. Rice Secure.
Okay, let's talk about that card then. 1 second.
Basically, the requirement
Hold
requires
on.
you.
Let me pull the card up, please. Sorry, I'm too tired to actually edit this video too much, so I want to get it in one take.
Oh, it's all fine.
All right.
You can just type in Rice.
No, I'll sort by rarity. That way I can see it. There it is. Rice Terrace Secure. Please continue.
Basically, the requirements require you need to send one level 5 or higher monster from your hand to the graveyard, and its effect allows you to change attack position non-aqua type monsters on your opponent's field to face up defense position equal to the number of face up aqua type monsters on your field, which is very helpful for Kime Ruler.
Yes. So this card is essentially similar to Torna the Windweaver, except that it is not limited 3. And the exchange for it not being limited 3 is twofold. Number one, it is an ultra rare in the box as opposed to being super rare that you get for free. And the other requirement is that you must discard a level 5 or higher card as opposed to any card. But if your goal is to switch a monster to defense position, Rice Terrace Secure will do so. And most importantly, the monster, despite being an Aqua monster, has less than 1,400 attack points, which means that she is able to be used in almost any skill restriction except for the Climax Beat skill for Roman, which requires only psychic monsters.
That is true. And another card that I think is very helpful is Dunder the Dunder, which makes an opponent's monster loses 300 attack.
That is correct. Thunder the Thunder is a super rare in the box. It is a light thunder monster with 1,300 attack and 300 defense. And by discarding any card, you can cause one face-up monster on the opponent's field to lose 300 attack until the end of the turn. Um, this card is also extremely valuable in the Lightning Bolt Condor deck because it is a light monster, so it can be discarded for Lightning Bolt Condor's effect.
Yes.
Um, so yes, those are two very good cards. I would like to add, in case you have not considered this yet, Gold, that I believe there is one other card that is extremely valuable to the Yami Ruler of the Dark Delayer deck that might be overlooked, and that card is Kuribot. Kuribot is,
Actually thinking about that, like I read the effect and like that could be actually very useful. Like it could
yes,
be tribute fire, it can
mhm,
recycle.
that is
That
correct.
card that card is actually pretty underrated.
Yes, so this card is extremely good for level 7 decks in particular because it essentially functions as two copies of itself as long as you have at least one in the graveyard already. So this will allow you to summon Kime Ruler the Dark Raider and Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer more easily. And you are able to use this card because it has less than 1,400 attack points. I will say that Currybot is a card that you either run 3 of or run 0 of.
That is true. I
Now,
only have one right now, so I I don't have it the full set, but I would definitely run it if I could.
Now, let's talk about the interesting midway point that Konami made with us. So, this is a brand new world, and because it was a brand new world with like essentially it's essentially the DM world of Rush Duels, the first world. And because of that, some people were expecting that perhaps we would get the characters' ace monsters as part of their initial decks. And we did not, but we did get one copy of Max Raider with each initial deck, which Max Raider is a level 7 Earth Warrior monster that is a normal monster with 2,400 attack points. What do you think about this compromise goal? Do you think that getting 3 copies of Max Raider for free was good for us?
I think it is like it may not be the best, but I think it's a pretty good card for what it is. Like it's a free card. Like it may not be our aces, but I feel like for what it is, I feel like it is a good compromise.
Okay.
Especially since we also get Celtic Guardian with it.
Mm-hmm. Celtic Guardian was a free super rare included in Gavin's deck. That's correct.
And we also want to talk about Wing Dragon. If you play dragons, that's also like a free card.
Oh, yes. Winged Dragon, Guardian of the Fortress. Yes, that was also a free super rare that we got, which is very good stats: 1,400 attack, 1,200 defense. Yes, and this card was not in the box. It was just a card that we got 4 copies of for free.
I do think they did make good compromises for what the current model of the business is.
Hmm. Okay. All right. Well, let's move away from Gavin specifically and talk about the overall release. So there were a few surprises that we weren't expecting because there were no leaks. That Konami was extremely careful with all the information they put out beforehand, and a lot of stuff did not get data mined. They did not preview the box before they released the world, so we didn't have any information going in. And there were several positive surprises like Celtic Guardian and Winged Dragon being free, but one surprise that caught everyone off guard in a negative way is that Phoenix Dragon is also a limit 3 card, which means that Luke is the only character of the four to have an actual limitation on his deck from the very start, as opposed to simply we don't want you to mix cards from 2 characters that Yami Ruler and Torn of the Windweaver are getting. Uh, Dragius and Phoenix Dragon both being limited 3 means that Luke actually cannot run 3 copies of every card that he is intended to run. What are your thoughts on this?
On one hand, while I originally thought it was unfair, on the second hand, I feel like it had to be done. Like recycling dragons would be too much for the current meta. Because imagine having to deal with dragons every turn, like back to back.
Mm-hmm. So Phoenix Dragon, for those who are not aware, allows you to discard a card from your hand to add a level 5 or higher dragon type monster from your graveyard to your hand. And then Phoenix Dragon can, of course, be used as tribute material for that. So this allows you to get back cards like Gravity Dragon, Gravity Press Dragon, um, or Fire Guardian if you only have the one Phoenix Dragon. But if you have 2 tribute materials, then you can recycle cards like Dragonic Slayer or even Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius. Now, I do not believe there is a situation where this card's recyclability factor uh, precludes the power of Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius. In other words, I do not think that Dragonic Slayer, even with the skill that is intended to make it more powerful, stands alone to the point where you would run 3 copies of Phoenix Dragon and 0 copies of Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius. I think that Dragius is too powerful of a card for any dragon deck to go without. And there are several non-dragon decks that also don't want to go without it at this point. But even moving forward, even if they make changes to sort of bind the characters' cards to themselves better, which we'll talk about our options for that. But even if they do that, this limitation is going to result solely in people running fewer copies of Phoenix Dragon than they otherwise would, either 1 or 0, depending on whether the player wants to run 3 copies of Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius or 2 copies of Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius and 1 Phoenix Dragon.
That is fair. That is a fair assessment.
Now, what do you think about? I don't think we've ever had a situation where a character's level up reward was limited to 3 to start with. Oh no, wait,
Yeah.
no. I'm sorry. We did. We had that with Yugo. Yugo's Triad dice
Oh,
was limited to 3. I apologize.
oh, I forgot that. Even I forgot that for a second.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I'm the speedrun guru. I should have remembered that instantly. But that card was largely passed over. It is not a card that is important to the typical speedrun strategy.
That is fair.
This is a card that is core to Luke's entire identity as high level dragons. That's his entire goal. Um, and really, the question is, if they don't want us to play this card with his ace monster, why would they even give us the card to begin with? Surely there was another less problematic dragon support card that we could have gotten so that we didn't have to waste level up rewards and drops on a card that we weren't going to run.
Honestly, I feel like there might have been, but they scrapped it at the last minute.
We'll have to see. Perhaps Konami is planning to unlimit Phoenix Dragon sooner rather than later. Perhaps they are expecting that some change in the near future, maybe in January or December, will result in a shift in the rush meta that allows them to that will make us stop focusing so much on Dragius as we are right now, and perhaps at that time Phoenix Dragon could be unlimited. But
I
we'll
definitely
have to
feel
see.
like it could. I definitely feel like it could if Dragon stopped becoming so meta relevant. Not necessarily meta relevant, but so prominent as it is. Because as of right now, I don't think they want to risk giving us free Dragons and unlimited Phoenix Dragons so people can recycle it.
Yeah,
But maybe later when we get more cards, maybe they can unlimit it.
we'll have to see. All right, so let's talk about the other characters' drops. So Roman Cassidy, I've already said she has Romanpic as one of her drops, and then let's see, her other drops are Psy Stage Bouncer, which is a level 6 psychic normal type monster with 2,000 attack and 700 defense. 2,000 is a very respectable amount of attack points. Ancillary the Magical Swordsman has 2,000 attack points. Uh, Urashima the Hermit has 2,000 defense points. And Fire Guardian has 2,100 attack points. So the characters are all kind of on the same level, with Luke being slightly better and Gavin being slightly worse. But this is a perfectly serviceable card for Roman. I do think that it will see play as a one-of in the Psychic deck, um, mostly because it's just a good card to get a level 2 monster off the field when you need to summon a level 2 monster and you don't have Premium Guitar to tribute over with. Um, then Roman actually is the only character to get her own trap card. We did not see any of the Dragon trap cards. We did not see any of the spellcaster trap cards. We did see 2 psychic trap cards, and one of them is not good. It's not going to see any play. The other one is Severing Psychic Wall. And Severing Psychic Wall, when an opponent's monster declares an attack, you can shuffle a psychic monster from your graveyard into your deck, and then your psychic monster gains 500 attack points until the end of the turn. So this is essentially reinforcements. And reinforcements, as it turns out, is fairly significant when every monster has around the same amount of attack points.
Oh, definitely. I definitely feel like it's a lot better now in Rush Duels. Now that attack points a lot matter a lot more.
Mm-hmm. Um, Psychics are also the deck that mill themselves the most, so this card is more likely to be actually usable on the first turn than another card for another type that does the same thing, just because you're less likely to have monsters in your graveyard to shuffle. Um, but with cards like Psychic Burial and a few other tools that psychic duelists have, I do believe Severing Psychic Wall will be a very valuable tool. You only get 2 copies by leveling Roman up, but it's only a super rare. I would strongly recommend getting this card at 3 and running it at 3. I will show the what I believe to be the optimal Psychic deck in just a moment. I've been playtesting it all day.
Oh, I'll
Rom-
also like to see it.
yeah, yeah, of course, it's going to be on the screen. Don't worry. Romanpic is a level 1 light psychic monster with 500 attack, 0 defense, and her effect is if your life points are lower than your opponent's, pay 500 life points, send the top 3 cards of your deck to the graveyard, and if you sent a psychic monster with this effect, you can choose any psychic monster in your graveyard and add it to your hand. So this is essentially a very similar card to um, Phoenix Dragon. It allows you to basically get back Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar, every single turn, if you have a Romantic every single turn, which you won't. So one time, you get to get back Prima Guitarna and then tribute Romantic and another card to summon Prima Guitarna at the cost of 500 life points, which, considering that Prima Guitarna is only useful if you pay 1,000 life points, is a very steep cost. So I can understand why Romantic is a soft limit 1 as opposed to a hard limit 3, like Phoenix Dragon is. And then, of course, they don't want to limit 3 on Prima Guitarna anyway, so putting Romantic at limit 3 wouldn't do anything. Um, it is sad that we don't have this card at 3, but I feel like this is a situation where they couldn't really justify this card at 3 in a 30 card deck, um, which is fair, but that's more of an argument that we shouldn't have a 30 card deck than that we shouldn't have 3 copies of Romantic. The Psychic milling strategy is based around having 40 to 60 cards in the deck, and there's not really a reason for us to have this sort of bastardized version of Rush Duels where we don't have 40 cards in our deck and we don't have 8,000 life points. So we're going to have problems like this moving forward, I guess, and we just have to accept it. But I disagree with it.
I do think that's fair. Like, I do agree with what you said. Like, I I feel like a lot of this could have been solved by just having it be regular rush duels instead of trying to do half rush duels like they're doing right now.
Yeah, I don't get that. I don't see who that appeals to, but I guess they probably play tested the full game and found that the games were too slow. We've already seen plenty of speed duel players commenting that rush duels feel much longer, which I mean, that's the idea in my opinion. It feels better if the game is longer, but I suppose that's only for PC players and mobile players want a faster experience.
I definitely can see that. Like, I'm also a PC player,
Mhm.
and games do not feel that long for me. But it might be different from mobile players who take significantly more time.
Now, let's talk about our last card, which we only get 1 copy of from the level up, but it is Roman's UR drop. So you can very easily get 3 copies of this card by farming her at the game. This card is called Climax Finale, and the requirement is that you pay life points equal to the number of psychic monsters in your graveyard times 100, and then 1 face-up psychic monster in your field gains attack points equal to the number of psychic type monsters in your graveyard times 100 until the end of this turn. This is a very good card, specifically because you can search it with the skill. And as we discussed in the previous video, searching is not really a thing in Rush Duels. So having a card that you can rely on allows you to build your strategy more effectively around it. And so the psychic strategy of milling your entire deck in order to build up a climax finale is something you can now rely on. I do think the skill is too powerful. Right now, the skill is being overshown by the sheer monster mash, which again we'll talk about the meta in a little bit. But I do think that once Konami has gotten a lid on the generic decks that are running rampant right now, Psychics will be the deck that is the most powerful, and
Oh,
it is because
definitely.
of the skill. So this is my
Yeah.
list, um, and I'm running 3 copies of Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar, 1 copy of Romantic, 1 copy of Psy Stage Bouncer. Then I'm running 3 copies of Silent Assailant, which is a rare from the box. It has 1500 attack points and 0 defense points. It is a Dark Psychic monster. It is a fine card. You will use it primarily to pair with Prima Guitarna. So you'll summon 2 level 2s, you'll tribute them for Prima Guitarna, and then you'll have Silent Assailant left over from your hand, and that will be a card that you just play to get a benefit of being able to attack over something with the Prima Guitarna attack buff. The fact that she has 1500 attack points means if you give her 600 attack points from a 2-monster Prima Guitarna buff, she can beat over monsters that have 2000 attack points, such as Psy Stage Bouncer, Dark Magician Girl, and um, um, Ansler the Magical Swordsman, which is a key breaking point. The fact that she can't beat over Fire Guardian without trading isn't that big of a problem because Prima Guitarna can do that, so hopefully Fire Guardian is the threat on the board in that case, but we'll have to see how often that comes up. I don't think that Silent Assailant not having 1500, or I don't think that Silent Assailant's stat line is going to be that big of a problem because there's not that many problems that she can't solve with Prima Guitarna. Then we have Concert Costume Creator. Concert Costume Creator is a light psychic monster with 1200 attack and 800 defense. Now, one thing that's important to note is that Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar, and most of the other monsters in this deck are light. And the reason that that is important to bring up is because it means that they have a bad matchup against the Lightning Bolt Condor deck, specifically. The Lightning Bolt Condor deck is not nearly as popular as I was expecting it to be, despite it because it's free. I was expecting free to mean that the players would all want to run it, especially since there is a skill dedicated to it, which is quite good. But I have not seen it very much, and that's surprising. It did take second place in our tournament, um, but still, not nearly as popular as I would have thought. So, but if the Lightning Bolt Condor deck starts to see a bigger piece of the meta, then the Mimi Light Aqua deck and the Roman Light Psychic deck will get weaker as a result because they are so easily like the AoE affects them more than other decks when the Lightning Bolt Condor deck is active because Lightning Bolt Condor has to make it work for other decks. They're usually only debuffing one card with Lightning Bolt Condor as opposed to all of them.
I do agree. I feel like we should get on that once we get to the meta too, because I
Mhm.
want to talk about that.
We will. Don't worry. I will give you all the time to talk about the meta. Right now, I'm talking about the Psychic type. Uh, Kitar Kid, level 2, 700 attack, 0 defense. She is dark. Um, the level 2 Psychics are very important. We will talk about why in a second. But there are 3 of them, and so you run 3 copies of each of them. So you have 9 level 2 monsters. They are just tribute fodder. You play them, you activate the skill, then you tribute them, and that is fine. 1 copy of Climax Finale because it is searchable with the skill. Right now I'm running 2 copies of Pierce. Pierce is extremely good for Psychics. I imagine that Pierce will be run primarily in Psychics and Dragons. I don't necessarily know that it belongs in Magicians or Birds or Warriors. Um, Even if Warriors can force monsters into defense mode more frequently, they're primarily doing that so that Kime Ruler can attack directly, so Pierce isn't as necessary. Um, but for Psychics, it's extremely good because of Lullabind. So Lullabind is another card that is searchable, which with the skill, which allows you to, if you have 2 or more face-up Psychic monsters in your field, you change 1 face-up monster on your opponent's field to face down defense position. If you turn a monster face down, you use Prima Guitarna's effect to amp her up a lot, and then you play Pierce. You can kill people.
It also gets around Yami Ruler if you have 2 psychics. Like before you summon Prima Kateria, you can use Lullaby and flip that Yami Ruler face down and negate its effect.
That is correct. Yami Ruler, the Dark Delayer's delay directive effect only works while it is face up on the field. So Lullabind does turn it off. And that being searchable by the skill is a key factor in why I do not think that the Yami Ruler deck will be too oppressive. And also, that is why I think that Konami is going to be hesitant to nerf the Climax Beat skill too much. Because they probably put the searchable Lullaby in Psychics as a stopgap to make sure Yami Ruler the Dark Layer did not become too powerful. Because of the 3 monsters, the 3 ace monsters that exist, Prima Guitarna is the most suited to beat over Yami Ruler the Dark Layer. She gains attack points, She only gains 300 against specifically Yami Ruler by itself, whereas Seven's Robe Magician could, in theory, go higher than that more easily. But I do not think that most refined warrior decks will play just Yami Ruler and pass. They will probably want to play more cards to try and empty their hand. So they are probably betting that Prima Gitarna with Searchable Lullabind is the best way to keep Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer in check.
Yes.
Running 3 copies of Phantom Bind and 3 copies of Severing Psychic Wall. Now, Phantom Bind is currently not a very good card because of the meta, but it is the only trap card that we have right now that is useful for every player. So you would want to run 3 copies, and the reason you want to run 3 copies of Phantom Bind is because it makes your Severing Psychic Walls stronger. The reason why Severing Psychic Wall is so strong is because players have to deal with Phantom Bind already. You cannot activate Phantom Bind and Severing Wall at the same time in response to the same attack, like you could do for another game. Um, you each trigger that your opponent performs only gives you one chance to respond, and you can't chain to yourself. So you can either activate Severing Psychic Wall and raise your monster's attack by 500, or you could activate Phantom Bind and lower your opponent's monster's attack points. But you can't do both. But the reason why you want to run 3 of each of these is so that you can basically set 3. You want to be able to flood the board with traps so that your opponent is not able to get through your area. They can play their hammer crushes. They can try and use Dragonic Slayer. And the fact that you have so many cards set at the same time means that you will be able to survive removal, whereas other people are not. Essentially, the only way to survive removal these days, spell and trap removal these days, because you can't chain to it, is to have more of it than your opponent can remove. And that is why we want to run 6 traps. Okay, so with that in mind, let's talk about the skill. Climax beats. As long as you have only psychic type monsters with 2400 or less attack in your deck, on turn 2 and onward, each turn that you have summoned a level 2 monster, you can set 1 Climax Finale or Lullaby from your deck or graveyard in your spell and trap zone. And then if your life points are 1000 or lower, you can gain 1000 life points. I have used this skill to gain 3000 life points in one game.
Oh dang.
Yes, it is ridiculous. So you just gain life points. You then pay them off so that you can use Prima Gitarna's effect, or to pay for Climax Finale, or to pay for Romantic, or whatever else you're paying your life points for, and you then just bully your opponent. And it's a very good effect, and I think that it will be one of the best skills for a while. Now, I will quickly talk about the cards that are not in this list. So I am not currently running any copies of Berry Bassist. Berry Bassist is an extremely good card. And if I wanted to reduce the number of spells and traps in the deck to make the deck more monster heavy, I would probably put Berry Bassist in here first. But right now I feel like the spells and traps are what make this deck this deck. Obviously, you have to have 1 copy of Lullabind and 1 copy of Climax Beat to make the skill work. Um, and with Lullabind, Pierce just kind of fits together really well. It will let you OTK a lot. And then there's the traps that kind of feed off of each other. If it becomes bad to use traps for whatever reason, and you just decide to cut all 6 of these traps, then you would want to play Berry Bassist. The other card that is not in here is Folder Blitz, the Infinite Dream. We found out today that burn damage is not halved, so Folder Blitz gets to burn your opponent for 1500 life points when they only have 6000 to start with. That is a lot of burn, but it only has 2300 attack points, and that means that it loses to basically everything. So while it's a lot of burn, it's not good enough on its own, and we would rather use any tribute fodder on Prima Gitarna. Um, Most decks can handle running multiple level 7s, but I don't think Psychics can. So I just decided to drop it. And that's my Psychic review. Gold, got any questions?
I have no questions. It seems like a very solid deck.
Yep, I played it a lot. All right. Let's talk about Luke then.
In my opinion, I feel like Luke is the strongest character out of these four,
Mhm.
like in the meta.
Yes, probably. But that's more to do with his box cards, I think, than anything else. We're talking about the level ups and the skills for right now.
Ah, that is true.
So, Luke's Luke gets 2 copies of Triad Drago, which is a level 3 monster. If your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monster, and you have 2 face-up non-level 3 dragon monsters on your field, you get to draw a card, and you can immediately attribute this, so it's a pretty good effect. Fire Guardian, level 6, 2100 attack, 400 defense. It's just a normal monster. It's fire. Uh, Very strong card. I don't know how many copies you end up running in a dragon deck, but I feel like it's at least one, and I feel like you'll be happy when you draw it. Phoenix Draco, we already talked about. Yeah. And then you can get like all 3 of these by beating him at the gate. Now, the level 18 skill for Luke is called Dragonic Resonance. If all of the monsters in your deck are dragons, then once per turn, when you have a face-up Earth attribute effect monster, so you cannot use it, you can use it on normal monsters, but you have to. The requirement requires that you have specifically an effect monster with 15 or more attack or 13 or more defense. So importantly, Draco Right can't trigger this, even though it can benefit from it, because Draco Right is level 4, is a 1500 attack normal Earth monster. So as long as you meet the requirements, then this turn, up to 2 face-up monsters you control with 2300 or less attack on your field gain 500 attack, and their level is increased by 4. Now these monsters do not have to be effect monsters, and they do not have to be Earth monsters. It does not have to be the monster that triggered. You can choose any 2 monsters. You just have to have an Earth effect monster on the field. So obviously this is meant to be used with Dragonic Slayer, and we'll talk about Dragonic Slayer real quick. Let's see. Dragonic Slayer is a level 7 Earth Dragon monster with 2300 attack and 0 defense. Its requirement is that you have a face-up level 7 or higher dragon monster other than this card on the field, and you get to destroy 1 spell or trap your opponent controls. This is obviously extremely powerful because it is a soft once per turn, not just the turn that you summon it, and your opponent can't respond to the activation, so their spell or trap card is immediately destroyed. An MST every single turn is extremely good. Obviously, right now, the value is a little bit less because we don't have that many spells and traps to destroy, but it will only get better moving forward. So this is definitely a card you want to invest in if you are interested in dragons. The reason why the skill is so important is because it allows cards like Dragorite to count as a level 8 dragon. So Dragorite does gain 500 attack points. It becomes 2,000 attack points. That's pretty good. But the important thing is now it's a level 8 dragon, so it allows Dragonic Slayer to destroy a spell or trap card. This can also raise Dragonic Slayer's attack points. So Dragonic Slayer become a level 11 with 2,800 attack points. Is that good? Yes, that's very good. It allows it to beat basically anything, and it can beat over Yami Ruler to Dark Delayer, which is important. So the skill is very strong. And then the cards that we received, like Dragonic Pressure, which is just a dark hole that requires you to discard 3 cards. Sports Dragon Pitcher and Sports Dragon Slugger, which allow you to summon level 7s very easily. Um, and Gravity Press Dragon, which allows you to beat over monsters with 2200 attack or less. All of these cards work very well together. Dragons do have, it seems, the highest amount of pressure that they can apply, especially because of Drakius, but it's still not enough to deal with the meta. And we're getting there. We're almost there. We just need to talk about Yuga. Lastly, Yuga's level ups are Ansler the Magical Swordsman, Road Magic Explosion, and Excel Wonder Splat. Ansler is a level 6 with 2000 attack, 500 defense, fire spellcaster. Road Magic Explosion, if you have a face-up level 7 or higher spellcaster monster in your field, send 1 fire attribute monster from your hand to the graveyard to burn your opponent equal to the cards they control times 400. That is insane. If they have 6 cards in the field, they get burned for 2400, which is almost half of their maximum life point total on a single card. Very, very good. They made a skill for it for some reason. That's hilarious. Excel Wonder Splat is a level 6 spellcaster monster. If you mill the top card of your deck, one face-up spellcaster monster on your field gains 200 attack, and its level is increased by 2. This will make Excel Wonder Splat a level 8 monster, which means that you can use Road Magic Explosion with her, even though you only tributed one card for her. Very good. 10 out of 10. All these cards are at the gate as well. I recommend getting 3 of all of them. Okay. Now that we've talked about that, let's talk about the meta.
All right. So
So,
that
the meta is messed up, basically.
I will not disagree. I feel the same way.
So this is the deck that I used to win the tournament. I was the winner of the tournament that I have been alluding to. And the deck that I used to win, I call it Dragius the Dark Delayer. It features one copy of Donkey to the Boogie Master, one copy of Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, two copies of Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius, two copies of Seven's Road Magician, three copies of Seven's Road Witch, and one copy of Summon Skull. And the reason for all of these cards is because I want to have as many threats as possible to respond to all of my opponent's actions. Every single turn, I want to force my opponent's board to clear while leaving a threat on the board that my opponent is forced to deal with. And by being forced to deal with it, they will be forced to commit more monsters and more cards from their hand to the board, allowing me to make more trades, pile on more pressure, and until eventually my opponent has put so many monsters in attack position that I beat them down, or there is one or more turns where they simply draw more spell cards than monsters, and they run out of resources before I do. This is why there is not a single spell card in this deck. I do not run any spells or any traps to make sure that I have a constant fuel of level 4 monsters that I can either tribute or use to attack directly after I have used a high level monster to beat over whatever my opponent has played. And all of these monsters are different types. So Magical Ghost is a zombie, Water Magician is a aqua, Silent Assailant is a psychic, Sakai the Legendary Samurai is a warrior, Gazelle the King of Mythical Beasts is a beast, Thunder the Thunder is a thunder, and Rice Terra Secure is an aqua. So I have mostly, like, the most I have is I think I have 6 aqua monsters, but then everything else is like different types. I'm not running any spellcasters other than Seven's Road Witch and Seven's Road Magician, not running any dragons except Dragus, not running any warriors except Yami Ruler and 3 Masakais. And the reason that I'm doing this is so that I can avoid Phantom Bind. Phantom Bind targets the monster and then reduces its attack points by the number of cards in my graveyard that share a type with it times 100. Well, if all of the monsters in my deck are different types, then I am immune to Phantom Bind, essentially. And if I happen to have maybe one copy of Seven's Road Witch in my graveyard and my Seven's Road Magician loses 100 attack points, it doesn't impact me nearly as much as if the single type dragon player attacks with 11 dragons in their graveyard. And that's what Phantom Bind is meant to counter. Phantom Bind is meant to control all of these single type decks that are enforced by the skills. Well, if the players refuse to use those skills and instead just build a deck that's generically good, then Phantom Bind, as the only trap card in the meta, is unable to stop them. This is a problem. And the best solution to it would have been to give us better spells and traps. For example, if more decks other than Psychics had access to a card that raised their monster's attack points when they were attacked, then it would be less valuable to constantly crash into the opponent without any other way of dealing with them or interacting with them. Um, but since they don't have that, and since you don't run into too many Psychic players, you're seeing people just play the most aggressive deck possible and simply winning a game of attrition because they draw 5 cards every single turn. There's no way to stop them from just refilling their hand, constantly tribute summoning the most powerful monster they possibly can, bowling you over, and then you trying to use your 3 Phantom Binds that don't even work, and maybe one copy of, like, Darkness Approaches to try and stem the bleeding. And the worst part is, if you do manage to put them in a situation where either they've bricked and they don't have multiple high level monsters in their hand, they don't necessarily have that many spots left in their hand to draw a tribute fodder, um, or they're going to lose the game if they don't draw the card they need, a card to clear. They have the Legend Draw skill, which is on turn 4 or onward, if your opponent has a face-up level 7 or higher monster on the field and you have no monsters, one of the cards you draw this turn will be a legend monster with no other drawbacks, no other requirements. So I'm using
And the
Summon
best,
Skull. Other people are using Dark Magician. The reason they're using Dark Magician is so that they can play Dark Magician Girl and get buffed with Dark Magician Girl. But I'm using Summon Skull because it's one tribute. Go ahead.
I was about to basically say the one thing, but basically the legend draw allows you to draw summon scroll for free. A one tribute monster that has the same attack as Dragius. Let me
Hmm.
put that into perspective. It has the same attack as Dark Magician and Dragius.
And Yami Ruler.
Yes.
Hmm. Yes. So this card will allow me to basically trade up against any level 7 because even if my Summon Skull trades into Dragius and they both die, I only spent 2 cards to Summon Skull where my opponent spent 3 cards to summon Dragius. So
Yeah.
I will be in a positive situation in that case. So this is a very consistent deck. So far, I've gotten up to Silver 1 with it, but other people have cogged using the strategy already today in one day. Um, and the simple solution to this is to just make more trap cards. Um, the only way that we can slow down the aggro is to make it so that attacking blindly has some sort of drawback. So we want to see cards maybe like Curtain of Sparks, which is a trap card for spellcasters that reduces the attack of an attacking monster by 500. Maybe we want to see Dark Revelation, which is just Mirror Force. Maybe we want to see Vengeful Dragon Counterattack, which allows you to discard a card when your dragon monster is destroyed in battle to destroy any card on your opponent's field. Um, there are options. We just need
Basically,
more
give more
interaction.
options to the deck. Yes, give more options to the deck so they can compete instead of having to build the most aggressive deck possible. Like punish those players for not having ways around you.
So you faced this deck today, Gold, in the tournament. You were dueling with your Kime Ruler deck, which was built honestly. You had a theme. You had a skill. You were using spells and traps like the Darkness Approaches and Phantom Mind. How did you feel facing this deck? Do you feel like it was a fair experience?
Not really. I felt like I was in a disadvantage, even though look, even though I tried to get around, I felt like I was in a more disadvantaged position than if I were to just play the same type of deck
Mhm.
because I don't have as many options as you do.
Yeah, essentially, I was firing and forgetting every single card that I drew, whereas you had to try and get more value out of each card that you drew because it couldn't necessarily have been replaced by a monster of the same level. Since I have, I believe, 20? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 8,
Basically, you
11,
get more
14,
value out of my
17,
plays while I have to
20.
really like think about what I want to do, and I get less out of it for doing so
Hmm. Yeah,
because I don't have as many options as you do.
right. So since I have so many monsters, I literally have 20 out of 30 that are level 4s, and I'm drawing 5 cards every turn. Basically a level 7 was hitting at least one, if not two, level 7s was hitting the board every single turn. And I was able to use both Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius and Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer in the same duel. So when I needed to be defensive, I was able to summon Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, lock you down, and put my monster in defense position where you couldn't easily beat over it. And then um, when I needed to get aggressive, I had multi-strike Dragon Dragius to destroy your monster and then go for your life points, which did result in at least one victory. Um,
Yes.
so this is a problem. I don't think that people will tolerate this meta for very long. I do think that Konami is going to be made aware of this very quickly. I do not think this was their intention, which is explicitly why they tried to head this off at the pass by limiting 3 on Yami Ruler, on Torn of the Windweaver, and on Multi-Strike Dragon Dragius. And I have seen variants of this deck that had a more spellcaster lean with Torn of the Windweaver in it, which were also very effective. Um, I think that the solution is They need to print more cards. I don't know how fast they're going to print more cards, but they do need to print more cards. Um, and they also need to either
Like you
make the
said,
skills better so that people feel like they can't give up the skills as easily, or maybe put more of a restriction on legend draw.
I feel like that could be a double-edged sword because like some people will feel like is back with the old days where they're eliminating generic skills,
Hmm. But I
but
mean, in
no,
this instance, it feels like it's necessary, right?
yes.
That's the problem.
That's why I felt like it's a double-edged sword because on one hand you have to stop this like aggro focus where we're just playing like. But there's another skill. Look up Hammer Crush Deal. Look up Hammer Crush Deal.
Sure. 1 second.
I want to put this into perspective.
So Hammer Crush Deal is one of Luke's level up skills. Go ahead.
Basically, if you set Hammer Crush from your hand, you get to draw one card. You don't have to use Hammer Crush. Basically, you just get to draw one card for free as long as you draw Hammer Crush.
Hmm.
People have been using this to just draw one. They don't even use it to play Hammer Crush. They just draw one.
Yeah. So that essentially would allow you to play with a 29 card deck instead of a 30 card deck.
Yes.
That would definitely be a frustrating experience.
And those are the two most generic skills in the game: Legend Draw and Hammer Crush Deal. These are the two skills people have really been using to get cog with.
Well, maybe the solution is to ease the restrictions on the other skills.
Maybe, maybe.
All right. Well, I think that's about all that we can really talk about. But before we go, let me make up to you that we had kind of a rough tournament with a real fun game. Let's play for the audience. Roman versus Gavin, and I'll show you my psychic deck in action. Best of three. What do you say?
All right, hold on. Let me update my deck real quick again, so
Cool.
I can, and then we'll play.
All right.
I'm in the room.
Room code is 8585 and then four zeros.
I'm joining. All right.
All
Let me
right.
go.
I'm going to stop sharing my screen with you, and let's get started. All right.
I'm on the defensive right now since I don't have Yami Rule in my hand.
I summon Watt Angel, and I'll use the skill since I played a level 2 monster to set Climax Finale from my deck. Then I set 2 cards, and I'll end my turn.
Ooh, I got a pretty nice hand.
Oh, you said you didn't have Yami Ruler.
I just drew them.
Ooh, okay. All right. You're going to use Yami Ruler's effect instead of just attacking me? All right. Well, I'll play Phantom Bind. Hmm. I'll set a monster and I'll set a card face down. Your turn.
All right, my turn. I draw. I'll activate Pierce.
Oof. Okay. All right. Well, I will use another copy of Phantom Bind. Now. All right. 2 draws here. Perfect. I summon Guitar Kid and Concert Costume Creator. And then I will tribute both of those monsters in order to summon Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar. Next, I activate the spell card Climax Finale. Then I'll activate my skill to set Climax Finale from my graveyard. And since Climax Finale gives my monster the same amount of attack points as Phantom Bind takes away, by activating it, I know that I'm safe from your Phantom Bind. So I'll attack into your Yami Ruler without using Prima Guitarna's effect.
You are correct. I have Phantom Bind.
You have Phantom Bind, but I still had 2,600 attack points after my last Climax Finale, so I beat it over it. Then I'll pass. Nondes, the Fire Awakener. Okay.
Actually, I can win this turn.
All right. Let's see it. Dark Arts of Clarity. Switch my monster to defense mode. Okay. Ooh, okay. I activate my third Phantom Bind. Alright, I get to draw 5 here. I summon Wattkiss, and I activate my skill to place Climax Finale face down on the field. Then I gain 1,000 life points. Let's see. I'll tribute these 2 monsters to summon Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar. Then I summon Silent Assailant, and I'll activate Prima Guitarna, the Shining Superstar's effect. Rockin' Refrain. Alright, Silent Assailant, destroy Masakai, the Legendary Swordsman.
Hmm.
Well, then I'll destroy that, and then I lose. So, okay. Fair enough. Game 2.
Game 2. Oh, oops. Hold on. Oh, never mind. The room works. It didn't take me to the duel immediately.
Yep. Does it work? It's
Hold on. Let's
lagging for me.
rejoin the table. Rejoin the table.
Yeah, it messed up. Yeah. All right.
Hold on. Duel Link is making me reboot, bro.
All right. I'll wait. I don't need to sleep or anything. It's all good.
I'm enjoying Rush Duels, though. I really do enjoy Rush Duels.
I do too. I've been having a great time. Not only with playing Rush Duels, but we're talking about Rush Duels. That's why I'm making 5 podcasts about it.
I'm going first again. Ooh. I'm starting with a light play.
Set 2, set 3, and then set 1. Okay. Let's see. Alright. I'll summon a concert costume creator and another concert costume creator. And then I summon What Angel, and I'll activate my skill to set Lullaby from my deck. Then I'll throw down another face down, and I'll have concert costume creator attack this monster. Oof. Okay. How about this monster? Yeah. Then I'll pass.
Ooh, this is a really good hand.
Where's your Kimmy ruler? You didn't use Kimmy ruler last time.
Oh, it's here now.
Oh, you got Kimmy ruler and Yami ruler. Uh-oh. Wow, you were not kidding. That is a good play. All right, I take 1800. That's fine. All right, we will summon Kitar Kid, and we will activate Lullaby.
Dang it.
And I'll summon Silent Assailant, and I will tribute both of these monsters in order to summon Premia Tarna, the Shining Superstar. Then I will summon another Silent Assailant, and I will activate Rockin' Refrain. Then I'll activate my skill, and I'll set Lullaby back so that I can activate it again, targeting your Yumegumi the Ruler Squad, so that I can activate Pierce. Alright, I'll destroy Yami Ruler the Dark Delayer, then I'll attack you directly. Your turn.
I draw. Okay, okay, not bad, not bad.
Okay.
I don't got enough. I don't got darkness approaches to put your monster fully to attack directly, but this will do.
Sure. Alright. Let's see. Okay. I summon Wattkiss. And now I'll activate my skill to place Climax Finale face down from my deck. Then I tribute Wattkiss to summon my Psychic Stage Bouncer. Let's get this place pumping. I activate Climax Finale. I pay 600 life points, so my Psychic Stage Bouncer gains 600 attack points until the end of the turn. And now I'll attack your Kimi Ruler.
Activate Phantom Bind.
Hmm. Well, you only have 3 of those, so you can't do that forever. I'll pass.
You may be right, but there is something I can do. I activate bonded bowing. And next, I'll activate Dunder the Dunder's effect to discard Celtic Guardian to make your monster look free.
All right.
And now I attack.
I activate Severing Psychic Wall. So I'll return Prima Guitarna the Shining Superstar to my deck, and my monster gains 500 attack points until the end of the turn.
I'll have to end my turn.
Alright. 3 more cards for me. Perfect. I'll summon Watkiss, and then I'll summon my Watt Angel, and I'll tribute them both in order to bring back my favorite headliner, Prima Guitarna the Shining Superstar. Then I'll summon Keytar Kid and activate Rockin' Refrain so my monsters gain 600 attack points each, before activating my skill, Climax Beat, to place Climax Finale face down and regain 1,000 more life points. Now I activate Climax Finale, and I'll pay 900 life points to give Prima Guitarna 900 attack points. And I'll have Prima Guitarna attack your Thunder the Thunder for game. Oof.
That was fun. Game 3.
Yep, that came down to the wire there.
Oh, dang. If only I got when I need it.
Alright, let's see. Summon Watt Angel, and I'll activate Climax Beat to set Lullaby face down. Then I'll summon Watt Kiss and Silent Assailant, and I'll tribute both my Watt Angel and my Watt Kiss to summon Prima Guitarna the Shining Superstar. I activate Rocket Refrain to gain 300 attack points for each of my monsters before activating Pierce. And I'll have Prima Guitarna play your monster off the stage.
I'll let it happen.
You really had to think about that Phantom Vine for a second.
Dang it.
Oof, that's all you're gonna do, huh? Okay.
If I
Alright,
only had another monster, I could do
well,
something.
I'll summon Wattkiss, and then I will activate Lullabind and set your Masakai the Legendary Swordsman face down before activating my skill, so I can set Climax Finale face down. Then I'll tribute both of my monsters in order to summon a second copy of Prima Guitarna the Shining Superstar. Then I summon Watt Angel, and I'll activate Rockin' Refrain twice. Then I activate Pierce. And finally, I'll activate Climax Finale. I set one card face down, and I'll have Prima Guitarna attack for game.
GG.
All right, so even if I had kept my Roman deck, it looks like I would have won that best of 3 anyway.
It looks like it.
What do you think of the deck?
It is very powerful.
Thank you.
Like my deck is not fully complete yet, but your deck is very powerful.
Well, I put a lot of effort into grinding Roman all day so that I could have a completed deck by the end of by the tournament, and then I was playing it in ranked to try and perfect the list. I changed it a lot while I was on stream, and then I just decided I'm not drawing enough monsters, so I decided to do what everyone else was doing and draw 30 monsters instead.
Uh
But regardless, okay. GG. Well, I'm going to go ahead and upload this video. Thank you very much for joining me, Gold, and for the rest of you, thank you so much. This is Serafi. I was thrilled to have you all with me.